Oh, here goes, and welcome to episode number 111 of Throwback Hoops. Woody V is in the house. Please follow the show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as always, I'm joined by my main man, Robbie Clayton. Not far now, man, till our trip, right?
No, it's just over a week now. What's up, bro? Yeah, look, I didn't try and dodge the podcast this week, obviously with my boys getting knocked out. I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about the NBL this week, but yeah, thrilled to be back for another week, mate.
Yeah, awesome, man. And you've got a bit of a grand final feel about the jerseys that you're showcasing today. So why don't we get into it and let the audience know about what you got happening today? Yeah.
That's it. So, yeah, I thought I'd just rock a couple of jerseys of the teams in the grand final. So I'm not really going to do my normal thing where I talk about the players, but hanging behind me is the Chris Goulding, the Looney Tunes one from 2 seasons ago, that one with Bugs up there. Don't mind those Looney Tunes jerseys, Woods. I'm not massively huge on them, but they look all right. Certainly better than some of the superhero ones this year, which I don't think completely worked. I'll stand up and show you the one I'm rocking today. Yes, I'm wearing a Tasmania jersey 2 days after they knocked my team out of the final. So, yep, I'm going to still hold my head held high and sort of just show what I'm rocking today. But you know it's a guy I love and a guy that just dominated in the semi-final. So show you who I'm rocking today.
To all our audience that can't see, very surprised to see Robert Clayton wearing the retro Tasmania Jack jumpers. Jack McVeigh jersey. And yeah, I know you've always been a big fan of Jack.
Yeah, I was down with him before he was kind of... Yeah. There was a lot of hype on him, wasn't there? Love the way the guy plays, Woods. Yeah, rather than sort of talk about accolades and those sort of things. But yeah, I just wanted to say how this an important player he's become in this league now. I will give a shout out to our friends at the NBL Pocket Podcast. They were sort of talking about, would you take someone like him or Chris Goulding to the Olympics? I thought that was a great question how they posed that. The way McVeigh knocks down these threes these days, I mean, he's got an all-round game, and I do think his game translates well at that international level. He's a very crafty player, shots, he's got post moves, he can shoot in different directions and that, so he's not someone like Goulding that is a little bit more one-dimensional. Love the way he's continued to develop his game. I don't think he really has a weakness, right? He's a big game player. We've seen him hit game winners this season. Really looking forward to see him in this final series here. Love his versatility as well. So, what's your thoughts on McVeigh?
Well, it's interesting you say he doesn't have a weakness. If his one perceived weakness is illustrated, it's his ability on the defensive end. And I heard an interview with Jordan Crawford the other day, and he said, listen, one day Jack just came up to me in Milton in practice and said, look, I'm not even going to score. I'm not even going to take a shot. I'm not worried about offense. I'm just going to guard you guys this whole practice session. Yeah. You two are offensive beasts, and I want to, improve my defensive capabilities. And I'm just going to guide you guys and not worry about anything on offense today. So you just do your thing. And Jordan Crawford was talking about how much he's a sponge and he's willing to learn. And every day he just wants to get better. He's a gym rat. He's
it's well said, isn't it? I feel like he's sort of added something to his game every season. He goes away in the off-season. He's worked hard. I know he's played a little bit of NBL one in the past. I think he's probably a little bit too good for that now. But, he's certainly come back each season, added another thing to his repertoire there. And, just loving the way he plays. It's such an unorthodox game, isn't it? Some of these one-legged, step-back shots. There's a little bit of Dirk in there, I've got to say. I wonder if Dirk's someone that he watched a little bit sort of growing up and when he became a professional there. So, shout out to Jack McVeigh. Look, he torched the Wildcats in a couple of those games there. He was just impossible to guard at certain points, and his 3-point shot as well, Woods. I mean, he's a great shooter from beyond the arc now. So a couple of NBL finals themes jerseys. So we should say as well, we're recording Friday the 15th of March, so we're kind of in between just when the semis finish. We wanted to wait a little bit. I know it's coming out a little bit late this week, but we wanted to obviously talk about the semis and give a bit of a grand final preview. So I think what are we 2 days away from that game one. So. Loving the jersey you're wearing, Woods. I know I've already packed that one in the suitcase to take next week, but why don't you show everyone the greatest Hawk of all time there?
Sure.
Woods is standing up rocking the Dominique Wilkins jersey with the Hawks shorts and the Hawks hat. Yeah, he's got the full outfit today there, so loving the full repertoire. There's some of those old jerseys, Woods, that are massively sized, right? Because I can see that one's a small and it's still a pretty good size. I think it might be a Reebok, my one, and it's a large, and it's one of the biggest jerseys in my collection. So I don't know what was going on with some of the sizing back then, but great, classic looking jersey, that one.
I wore this jersey. I mean, we've talked about Dominique on this show. You've
Just a
worn
bit,
his
yeah.
jerseys. We've pulled so many of his cards. But I wanted to wear this jersey as an ode to what we're about to embark on, our trip to Atlanta. And me and my best buddy over here are going to be able to...
Dominique's just looking in at you as well there. He's going in for that big dunk. Yeah.
Wear the same jersey on the same day.
Yeah.
The Hawks game, man. So...
Yeah.
I know you're going to get into it a little bit later, but this is the same jersey you're going to be rocking. Exactly.
It is, and what we've got to do is we've got to rock that to the first Hawks game we go to, right? It only seems fitting. It's the Hawks-Portland game. Hang on, see that Dominic statue? I must admit, that's something that I think I've said to you, and I might have mentioned on the show, I might get a little bit emotional standing in front of that and be rocking our matching jerseys there. So it only seems fitting for that first Hawks home game that we see that we rock a jersey of their greatest ever player.
And maybe we take a photo with you and me with the jerseys on right next to the statue.
I reckon that's extremely likely that we'll do that. Yeah. Nice.
We'll get Rachel to take the photo, right?
Sounds good. All
right. Let's get into it then, man. I think let's not waste any more time. I want to get into it right away, man. So there were two semi-final series just finished with the Tasmania Jack Jumpers beating the Perth Wildcats in a 3-game series. Perth won the first game. Tasmania won the last two. And Melbourne versus Illawarra. Melbourne won game 1 and 3 at home, and Illawarra won the second game at their home. So, as you mentioned, we've got a Melbourne Tasmania final series. So let's start off with that Perth Tasmania series. After taking a 1-0 lead in the series and very close, being in a very good position to win that game too, it all fell apart at the seams for your Wildcats. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, I've probably had a couple of days for it to all to sort of sink in now. I'm glad we weren't recording this, maybe an hour or two after the game, because I was pretty pissed off, to be honest. It was an extremely disappointing way for the Wildcats to come out on their home court, in a crucial do-or-die game to make the grand final there. Look, firstly, full credit to Tasmania. They were really impressive there. I thought probably Roth out-coached, really, if I'm being honest there, just with some of the strategic moves and just that general game plan that Tasmania seemed to have. Look, Tasmania, definitely a good offensive team. We've seen that throughout the year. And they've got so many weapons. They had a couple of guys that were off. Crawford was pretty ordinary in that last game. And it didn't really matter, did it? They've got guys that can come on. The last 2 games, you're right, yeah. And that sort of matched, obviously, Pinder's last 2 games there. So, sort of going back, Pinder pretty much helped the Wildcats get that win in game 1. Just, amazing from behind the arc there. Looked really engaged on defense, had a real sort of step to him there. And whatever happened there, whether it's a concussion thing, I don't know if this is going to be something that comes out, in a month or two. Oh, yeah, he did, have a slight concussion. I'm not quite sure what was going on, but I mean, he was just no impact at all in those game 2 and game 3. He got a donut in game 3, right? Or did I dream that? He didn't score, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think he didn't score. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty disappointing. I just didn't really like the Wildcats' game plan in general. I mean, the lack of shots, I should say, that Bryce Cotton had was quite alarming. They needed to find a way to get him the ball more. I don't know whether, it's giving him a few more point guard duties. It's getting him actually to bring the ball up, then run a very heavy screen offense sort of scheme for him there. It was just struggling to get open playing in the shooting guard spot there. That's probably something I'm going to talk about that I think the Wildcats maybe should look at really going a high-class American point guard. That's something I'd be gunning for next season.
I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, I think it would match well with him. They never seem to want to do it, do they? I don't remember him doing it, actually, since Bryce has been there. But, yeah, that was disappointing. The MVP, look, he still had a pretty solid series. The stats will show that he was decent, but I think we just needed more for him in that last game. And also probably in that fourth quarter in the game 2 in Tasmania. So I thought that game 2 was a really good game as well, I've got to say, even though Tassie won. It was exciting. My State Arena crowd was amazing as always. But yeah, like I said, I think just better coached in general. We saw Milton Doyle have a few great periods in that game 3. Magnay really stepped up. He was really important in those games. I know we probably should touch on the suspension as well of Marcus Lee in game 2. I know that's getting a lot of attention around the country and around the league there. Everyone's saying it was a terrible suspension. Look, it's hard for me to disagree with that. I do think it should have been an ejection. I think it was a pretty nasty foul. So I think it should have been an ejection. I would have been happy just for it to be left at that. But, obviously, the rest is history now. He's suspended for game 2 and it didn't make a difference there. So Wildcats will probably be kicking themselves, all right, Woods. They had a decent lead in game 2. We're looking the better team for at least half the game there, and just things started to go downhill a little bit in that second half. But yeah, that's probably my take. What was your sort of general thoughts on the series?
So just quickly, Pinder did get a donut in that last game. He had 7 rebounds, 4 steals and a block, and only 4 field goal attempts.
I mean, that's crazy, yeah.
I think something happened in that second game. It was a concussion. He didn't hit his head, but something wasn't right, and he came off the court, early in that second game, and he was never the same after that. Bryce Cotton wasn't very happy with his teammates. In that third game, he was like yelling for people to come in and out of the game. You could see there was a lot of unrest there. I just don't think that the roster was built. I think we spoke about it. It's a bit of a flawed roster, right? You bring in a Jordan Usher, you bring in the Webster brothers, whose character is sometimes brought into question, right? Yeah. Is this the team that can take you all the way to a championship? And they were up and down throughout the season. Sure, they did finish in the top 2, but there were times where they looked like a championship team, and other times when they looked like they wouldn't even make the playoffs, right? Early in the season they had their struggles.
100%. It was like 3 teams mixed into one for the season. Look, your point on Jordan Usher's a good one, Woods. I've been saying it for the last at least 3, maybe even 4 seasons now. Our import choices have not been good. It seems like every year one of the imports we've got is just not someone that's delivered. Honestly, Jordan Usher, if you remember rightly, he played that first game of the season. I think it might have been the day before your big 40th birthday party. I was joking at the time, MVP and all the rest of it like that. I don't think he had any other good games after that. The guy came over here talking himself up as Defensive Player of the Year. His defense was terrible. So it was like, I don't know where he was thinking that might happen. I just didn't feel like he had a high basketball IQ as well. Just lots of just stupid mistakes. And, to the point that they basically had to bring him off the bench for a lot of games there. So he was really disappointing. I wonder if he's already on his way back to the US at the moment. He probably is. Look, Doolittle was good. I think he maybe was underutilised a little bit. I think probably, like we said, if you could have someone like Doolittle with Bryson and look at getting, a really high quality point guard there, I think that would suit us a bit more. We always seem to like to go for that swingman import spot there. So, yeah, but you're right though. Just a season where they started badly, they came good, they were the hottest team in the league for a while, and then looked a bit shaky at the end. Won that game 1. It was like, they're 1 win away from the grand final, and then they get blown out on their home court in game 3. So it's hard to know where to sum it all up for them, right?
In game 3, Bryce barely got any shots in the second half. I think he had 3 or 4 field goal attempts in the whole second half.
9 attempts for the game, I think it was as well. So that's just rubbish.
And
9 attempts for the game, yeah. I mean, he should be having,
20?
6 attempts a quarter? Yeah. Early 20 sort of field goal attempts, 100% for someone like that. So I think there will be some changes made on this team. There's no doubt about it. I'm not sure whether you can sort of carry some of those veterans. I'd like to see Wagstaff give it 1 more year. I think they probably had to play him a little bit too much. I felt like he played more this year than he did last year, and he was good. He's a veteran player. Still got to work on those layups. He still seems to miss 1 or 2 layups a game. I don't think Corey Webster will be back. I'm not sure of his exact contract status. So I'd be surprised if he's back. And I've got to make a call on some of these guys. Like Cole Zunic has been warming the bench for a while. Ben Henschel, I was really excited about at the start of the season. They barely played him. David Okwera, who's under contract for next year. I mean, David who, right? I mean, you just didn't even see the guy play. So, and obviously they're losing Sarr, so that's going to be a big loss. I thought his defense was really important in some of those games there, and not only his block shots, but changing shots and clogging up the lane a bit. So, yeah, I think there will be a little bit of turnover, and there probably needs to be as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's worth investing in Hiram Harris, right? He's shown. He's been the find for that team this season, right? He's
the find, Woods, but should he be starting? Would he be better off suited off for a 6th, 7th or 8th guy? I think he's been great in one of those spots. Starting, I'm not so sure, but, full credit to him, he played well. Michael Harris, his namesake there, was barely sighted, wasn't he, over those last few games? So he fell out of that rotation. So, yeah, there's definitely some work to do.
Hey, what about Ty Webster? I mean, he showed enough towards the back half of the season that his services may be worth keeping. Maybe he's a 6th man off the bench. If you're going to import point guard,
I'd be happy with him as that backup sort of point guard, even back, playing a little bit of the 2 guard as well. I like his defense. He's very sort of feisty out there. He can disrupt the opposition players and that there. Not sure again whether he should be starting now, but no, he's earned my trust a bit more. I'm probably a bit more high on Ty Webster than I was, 3-4 months ago or something like that. So I'd be happy for him to bring him back.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the high character individuals that Scott Roth brings into his system, right? Guys with the right attitude, willing to buy into a team culture. That was also part of the difference here between the two sides here. In come a playoff series, no one is better than the other. You saw Jordan Crawford not having his best games, but he's the first guy off the bench,
100%.
giving encouragement to, the likes of McVeigh and Milton Doyle when they're performing well. He's a very selfless individual, right? So I think...
Mate, his temperament was just amazing, right? Like, even if they get down a little bit, he still stays up. He doesn't start turning on the refs. If he does, it's not like in a crazy sort of way. I think sometimes really gets a little bit too out of control. I think maybe it was, the Trevor Gleeson school of thought where he sort of focuses a bit on the refs and everything like that, and maybe that distracts the players a bit. But, yeah, really love Roth's temperament. He'd be a guy you'd love to play with.
Oh, for sure.
Played for, I should say, yeah.
For sure. All right. Let's move on to the other semi-final series. Now, the fairy tale of the Illawarra Hawks, since Justin Tatum took over, came to an end. But that was a hard-fought 3-game series, a brilliant series.
Yeah.
Hawks will really look back and rue that first game when they had it in the bag, right? They really did, and then they blew it, right? And then a team like Melbourne, who hasn't lost more than one game, they haven't lost 2 games consecutively all year.
That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
It's extremely an outstanding stat, right? And you can't let them back into a game like that when you've got a window of opportunity to win. But looking back on that series, the Hawks have to be pretty happy with what they've done with Justin Tatum in this roster. And the future looks bright, right? So why don't you speak a little bit first on the Hawks and what your thoughts are on their performance this year?
Well, you're right about that, Woods. That was a real game that they let slide in game 1. I mean, imagine if they'd have won that game and then gone back to that, Illawarra, the snake pit, the sand pit, the snake pit, right? I always get confused. Imagine going back to that with that parochial crowd. That crowd was great, I've got to say. Thought they were just no touch as well. That Wildcats crowd on that Wednesday night, absolutely poor form, right? So I know I've heard people say, had someone say to me, everyone goes to bed early in Perth, and other people have like, well, they were waiting for the grand final and that. Got to do better than that, guys. You really do. That's being a bit, I don't know what that's all about, but they need to get a better crowd. That would have maybe given us a bit more of a lift. The Melbourne crowd wasn't great either on Wednesday night, I've got to say, but maybe they need to look at that next year if they're running deciding games. Maybe look at having it on a Friday night. That probably would work better that way. But in terms of back to Illawarra there, so look, a great season, right? I think when it's all said and done, it was they overachieved getting through to the last 4, and obviously forcing it to a deciding game. The Tatum move was really good. Probably a bittersweet one for us too, isn't it? Obviously, we're big fans, and we've got that relationship now with Coach Jacob Jackomas there. So it was strange sort of seeing a coach come in and sort of get the best out of that team there. But there's no doubt it was a great roster. We said that in the preseason. We really thought they built the team up well with a good roster there. And I see Tatum saying now he literally wants that whole team to come back. So that's a good sign. I'm sure all of them would like to come back. Look, I don't think they will. I'm sure there'll be a few that drop off there. I'm interested to see if they can maybe get Tyler Harvey to be naturalised there. I mean, that would be huge, wouldn't it, for them? If they could have him as a local player and then bring in another player, and maybe they don't need a star, they could bring in more a role-playing import just to fill a certain position there. But, yeah, I think the future's really bright for this team.
Yeah, I mean, potentially he's going to be able to naturalize midway through next season, which then allows him to maybe even bring in an import late, right? Rather than the start of the season. You play him as an import at the start of the season. Yeah. One guy I really want to talk about, I mean, we've had Coach Hesh on the show before, and we've asked him about Dave O'Hickey growing up. They've played together, and he had an opportunity as a development player in Southeast Melbourne. He then had an opportunity as a development player in Melbourne. Finally, he got this opportunity with a coach that put faith in him. And did he deliver, right?
He was huge, wasn't he? He was just bringing all the energy. I mean, he was so crucial in that game too. Obviously, getting that offensive rebound and scoring it, to force overtime there. You can see his teammates love him. He seems like he'd be a good teammate as well. He's jumping off the bench and bringing all that energy. Heard Gary Clark speak very fondly about him in a couple of those interviews there. So, no, a great success story, right? And obviously, a bit of a shout out to, I know I'm biased, Woods, but shout out to the NBL 1, because I think for guys like him, he got to play in the NBL 1 in the off season. He had some real success there. He was playing quite a bit more point guard in that role there in the NBL 1 East, and really dishing out the dimes and putting up big numbers there. So I think for guys like him, we saw Wani Swakala-Bullock was also playing in the NBL 1. Lachlan Albrick was playing as well. So I think it's been good for a lot of these guys getting that sort of, obviously you're a little bit more the man when you're playing at that level, gives you the confidence, you can sort of work on a few skills. So I think that's a good sort of shout out to the NBL 1 for someone like Hickey there. But no, I think look, he was turning into a little bit of a journeyman, wasn't he? He wasn't quite sure where his career was going, but he's absolutely found a home in the Gong now.
Yeah, he's amazing, and I think He likes that community, you know, that place has been good to him. Justin Tatum's a great development coach for him. Even a guy like Wani Swakala Bullock, man. I know you've been a fan of him since his Perth days.
Yeah.
He's possibly the best on-ball defender in the NBL, man. You know, he's in that conversation, right? He's always got the, you know, assignment on the greatest offensive player on the opposition.
He'd be in the conversation for longest arms in the NBL, I would have thought. Yeah. His arms are so long. Yeah, he just creates havoc out there, doesn't he? And, you know, he's shown that he can knock down the three at times as well, which is certainly important for someone like him. But, yeah, really like that roster. I mean, it's hard to sort of fault any of the, you know, the positions they've got there. Justin Robinson maybe still a little bit inconsistent. I know you're probably a little bit higher on him than I am, but there's no doubt he can impact a game there. But, yeah, definitely looking good for the future, and a team I think will be right up there again next year.
Yeah, so with a community-based team, right, it's hard to retain some of these players who might price themselves out. A guy like Justin Robinson, who's been here for 2 years, he's come back from a serious ACL injury. I think it was an ACL injury he had, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to demand a lot on the open market. So a guy like him, the Hawks could retain on cheap, right?
Yeah.
A guy like Gary Clark, who loves the NBL, loves the lifestyle in Australia. You think of Sydney or a Melbourne or one of these teams is going to come calling, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, he could get a lot bigger offer, couldn't he? You know, a Wildcats, you know, a Perth, a Melbourne, someone like that. So we'll be interested to see. He's obviously got a good relationship with Coach Tatum as well, so that might. But at the end of the day, you know, you've got to sort of look after yourself and your family. You've got to feed your family, right, as we've heard players say. And, you know, it's a short career span these people have, so if it's a difference that he could get another, you know, $200,000, for example, playing with another team, he'd have to look at that, wouldn't he? But, yeah, I'd like to see him come back. We were both excited with the signing at the start of the year, weren't we? Someone that had such good NBA experience there. I thought maybe he was a little bit slow to get going at the start of the season, just trying to find his way with the way the league's officiated.
He said that himself.
Yeah, and it's officiated very differently, right? But at the end of the season, he was clutch, right? Hitting big shots. He's a big body player and that. So, yeah, it was fun watching him go over the year.
And what about Sam Froling, man?
Oof, I mean, Samson.
Like, the way he's developed over the years, just playing in that system, he's the mainstay. He's a young veteran now. What is he, like 24, 25 years of age?
He'll still be eligible for that first year, or whatever that award's called when he's about 40. But yeah, he's. I was thinking in that series, Woods, he's probably a jump shot away from being maybe on an NBA summer.
I agree.
Roster.
I totally
it's the only thing that'll hold him back, right?
Yep.
He's crafty and one of those left-handers. You know, you think of a player like Sabonis, obviously a lot better ball handler and passer, but those lefty sort of big players, you wouldn't say Sabonis is massively athletic either, but yeah, if he can continue to work on that shot, you never know. It's he's still young enough that he could get a shot in the big league.
I think in the system, playing FIBA basketball in the system he's in, there's no need for him to do that because he serves a role. But I think it would be in his best interest to develop that part of his game so it opens up more opportunities for him. And I want to see him play for Australia a little bit more in the future. Do you know what I mean? I think the big man situation in Australia, we've got a lot of depth there nowadays, right? You got Duop Reed, you got Jock Landale, right? You know, you've got.
Here's a question for you, Woods. The next Olympics, if you could take either Will Magnay or Samson Froling, who would you take? Only one of them.
I mean, simply because of the injury history that Will Magnay has, I would probably take Froling.
Yeah.
But in terms of the...
it's a tough one, though, isn't it?
A role that Magnay plays, which is kind of like a rim protector, a guy who can just come on for spot minutes and have that defensive impact, he's probably going to be more impactful.
And he can stretch the floor more than Froling as well. But yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? I wouldn't be surprised if we do maybe see one of those guys maybe just make that end of the bench for the Olympic team this year as well, yeah.
All right, great. Now let's talk about Melbourne really quickly, right? I mean, their depth really showed in this series, right? Bringing on guys, you know, like Tanner Krebs to hit clutch shots when they needed. You know, Kyle Bowen coming on at times.
Very good player.
You know, two-headed monster there with Ariel Huckporty and JLA. Well coached by Dean Vickerman. I mean, Dean Vickerman did a great job in bringing them back into that game one, you know, making some changes in that last 5-6 minutes to make an impact defensively to bring him back in the game. So they look pretty good in this series, right? Despite nearly being out of it, right?
Yeah, and you didn't even mention one of your favourites as well, Woods. I thought Shea Illy in that game 3 was huge there, and they kept on leaving him open. I'm not quite sure what the game plan was there. He's one of those players, if he gets his feet set, he's very likely to hit that outside shot. But I thought he was huge. He hit that big layup as well. I think he turned down a 3, didn't he? And then he drove in and got an easier shot at the basket there. So he was huge. But yeah, you're right. It's depth, isn't it, with this team? There's no weakness. I mean, they could run their second 5 there, and they would probably be competitive team in the NBL. Very well coached as well, like you said. That's pretty evident there with the game plan, everything they've got. It's hard to sort of find a weakness with them at all, isn't it? You've got guys. I'm blanking on the import's name. The Golden State Ian Clark, of course. Big time player, right? He's going to hit big shots at the end and not be afraid to take those big shots at the end of games. I feel like I maybe want a little bit more from Huck Porty at times. So maybe, I don't know whether I'm maybe expecting too much from a younger sort of guy there, but there's no doubt, like you said, that two-headed monster with him and JLA. I mean, that's two big units there, right?
Yeah, and pedigree, as you mentioned, Ian Clark, Matthew Dellavedova, and there's a lot of NBL championships on that roster. Chris Goulding, Luke Travis. I think Carl Bowen might have even been a development player at the Wildcats back in the day when they won a championship. I don't know whether they actually
got a chip for that one, but yeah.
Anyway, whatever. They've got a lot of guys who've been to the business end of the season, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's move forward to the finals then, right? Tasmania versus Melbourne United. I'm actually really looking forward to the bigs and what that matchup there. You've got Marcus Lee and Will Magnay versus Ariel Huck-Porty and JLA, right?
Huge.
Those, I want to highlight those matchups as something that's going to be key. When you get to the finals, things slow down a little bit. It's a 5-game series. Adjustments will be made. I don't expect it to be 100+ games. I expect the scores to be in the 80s, somewhere around there, and the game to slow down a bit and the big man to have a little bit more of an impact. What are your thoughts on how these final series is going to play out?
Yeah, I mean, firstly with the big guys, if you had said to me before the final series that this would be the matchup, I'd say, I think Melbourne's got that matchup. I think with the way Magnay's come on in this final series, I'd say it's almost a break even, I would have thought there. They're looking forward to that matchup for sure. You're probably right. Look, they are two high-scoring teams. We just see traditionally in these big games that the scoring does dry up a little bit like that. Both teams have shown they can win on the road in the regular season as well, so I don't think playing away is going to impact them or sort of throw them out there at all. I know the format, obviously for those that don't know, it's a best of 3 in the semis. For the grand final, it's best of 5, so it basically goes, Melbourne, Tasmania, Melbourne with potential game 5. So that's going to be interesting as well there. I think it's always a lot of pressure on the higher placed team that's got the first home game. Like if Tassie were to pinch that first game in Melbourne and then go back and defend the island there and get game 2, that would be huge, wouldn't it? But should say as well, once we get to see 2 of these games at normal Aussie times, and then we'll be away from game 3 onwards there. So I know we've already got the clock out trying to work out when they might be. So there'll be some late nights there.
So you're going to be calling me out of the club if they would get
probably,
back home.
Yeah, I'll already be home, tucked up in bed, trying to get a bit of sleep, and I'll be calling you saying, "Hey, the game's about to start" or whatever. But yeah, looking forward to that. And I'm really looking forward to this game on Sunday as well. So it's going to be a really big final series. I guess you probably want a prediction, Woods. I know we don't shy from predictions on this show, so we're always pretty honest there. I'm going to say United in 4.
Yep, me too.
I'd love to see it go to 5. I just think United. So we've both obviously got United winning that game 4 on Tasmania's home court there, which is interesting. We've both gone the same prediction there, but yeah, that's what I'm running with.
Not necessarily. I've got Melbourne winning game 1, and I've got Tasmania winning either game 2 or 3, and then Melbourne winning on that.
Okay, that way, yeah. But Melbourne would obviously have to, if it's going to 4 games, they'd have to win the 4th game.
Yeah. So not necessarily all the home games winning though, right? So, yeah, exactly. It'd be nice to stretch it to 5. I mean, if anyone can coach this team to a victory, it's going to be Scott Roth. So we
should say as well, Tasmania with the 2-1 regular season record as well. So they've won a game in Melbourne already. So they have no issues playing against a team like United there. So yeah, I think this should be a really good final series. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And as I said to you and some of our friends, for an expansion franchise to have this kind of success in its first 3 years is testament to the kind of program that Scott Roth has built, the front office, the coaching staff, the recruitment of the individuals. I said the high character individuals they've brought in over the years. A guy like George Majette would be watching at home, really happy about a lot of the work that he put in to build the culture in this team that he's seeing this year. So, I mean, all of that adds up to why Tasmania has been so successful, correct?
No, for sure.
All right, man. Really excited, as you said, for everything to kick off on day after tomorrow. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into some quick hits, man. I want to throw a few topics at you around the globe, and let's get into it. So I want to talk about Otto Porter. He announced his retirement from professional basketball this week after having a career that lasted over a decade. It ended early due to some injuries that he had, and he couldn't sort of sustain playing full time anymore. So,
Yeah.
what has Otto Porter contributed to basketball, and what will he be remembered for?
Yeah, I think, carving out a long career, I think he was a pretty respected player. He got that championship, obviously, with Golden State there. He may be the son of Wilt Chamberlain. I'm not quite sure. But if you look at some of those photos there, man, there's some similarities between those two at certain times. But I think he was someone that was pretty well respected by his teammates and everything else like that. I wouldn't be surprised if you see someone like him, Woods, maybe go into some sort of a coaching role, whether it's, an assistant coaching role and, some team's bench there. But no, just a solid career there. And it's a shame to see him sort of having to retire from the game so early, right?
Yeah, for sure. And he'll always remember a couple of years ago that championship with the Golden State Warriors, where he was a key contributor, right?
Absolutely.
Shout out to Otto Porter. Also, I wanted to move on to Patty Mills, man. I mean, we haven't actually had a chance to speak about this. I mean, he was acquired, he was waived by our Hawks and acquired by the Miami.
Sadly, right? Yeah, we were so looking forward to seeing him play. Well, maybe he wouldn't have played, but we're so looking forward to being in that stadium and seeing an Aussie in there, and you repping your jersey and stuff like that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. He's been getting a bit of court time with Miami, hasn't he? So I don't know. I'm probably a little bit on the fence with this one, as much as I love Patty and what he's done there. Look, I guess the pros, I think he can definitely help them a bit just with his veteran leadership. His movement and spacing on offense is very good as well. He's a very jittery sort of player, always moving around, creating space there. I think he's probably become a little bit of an underrated passer as well, Woods. That's something I'd say with Paddy there. So, and we know he's a great veteran there. He can hit big shots. He's an experienced player. I'd say the cons that go with that though. Firstly, I think his 3-point shooting's dipped quite a bit. I think he's around 36% this year, which I think would be either the worst or the second worst of his career there. So that's a little bit of a low percentage for him. The other one, I think I have mentioned this on the show. I've certainly mentioned to you offline. His defense, Woods. Hear a lot of people saying, why didn't the Hawks play him and all that other stuff, and people that maybe haven't seen a lot of the games. I've watched every Hawks game this year, and every sort of minute that he played for the Hawks, his defense is bad. There's no doubt about it. That's why I think he didn't stick around in Atlanta. I think they like to have that traditional defense-first backup point guard, like we've seen with guys like Wright and Holiday over the years, to back up Trey. I just don't think that was a great situation with playing someone like Patty behind Trey. Obviously, with the Hawks, they did draft a point guard in Kobe Buffkin there, so they wanted to sort of give him a little bit of minutes. He's out injured again at the moment. But, I think it's a good place for Mills to end up in. Loving the number he's wearing. When I saw he was rocking number 88, I'm like, hang on, that's got to be his birth year, right? It has to be. So I looked up, I'm like, yeah, cool. It is. So that's a cool number that he's chose there. Adds another team to his list there. But what were your thoughts on him?
I mean, the Miami Heat do not take a lot of 3-point shots at all, right? That's one thing. They're one of the least. I mean, you got Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. These guys they get to the mid-range, but they don't shoot a lot of threes, right? That 36% is because he hasn't had a lot of court time. Shooters need to be in rhythm and need to get some reps up, right? Because he's had indifferent court time, that could be attributed to this. It's also funny that 2014, we always remember him actually killing the Heat, right? Now he's playing for Eric Spoelstra, who's actually would be a great coach for him, because those guys have similar mindsets. They come across as a combination that'll work well together. So I think, look, let's just see when Tyler Hero comes back, if he's still going to remain in that rotation. I know that Eric Spoelstra has a veteran that he can call on at any time to come and help, and he's going to give his 100%. But I'm happy to see him there. Yeah.
No, good to see. I mean, certainly at this stage, Miami's looking like they're going to go a bit more deeper into the postseason than the Hawks do. We never know. Hawks are those playing specialists. Excuse me, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, good to see him get another opportunity anyway. It was a shame seeing him on the bench, wasn't it? It just didn't seem right for all those games. DMP CDs nearly every game, right?
Yeah, for sure. So this is a better fit for him. Let's see how it plays out, right? All right, moving on. All right, I want to give you a stat. Through 57 games this year, Luka is averaging a league-high 34.6 points, 9.9 assists, and 9.1 rebounds, shooting 49.5% from the field, which is crazy because of his usage rate, especially. Tell me, why is Luka not getting more, love for MVP? It's all about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Joker, but Luka kind of gets left out of that conversation. Do you think that there should be more discussions around Luka? Is it because the Dallas Mavericks have an indifferent record, like just an average record? Could that be the case?
Yeah, it's a great point, Woods. Obviously you mentioned Joker and SGA get a lot of talk. I think Embiid did as well pre-injury.
Sure. You're
absolutely right, though. We don't hear Luka in the conversation. And there's some mind-blowing stats, right? nearly 35 points a game, nearly 10 assists, 9 rebounds, high shooting percentages. Very, very special season. I think him playing in that World Cup there and, being in shape at the start of the season really helped him there. One thing I think as well that probably needs to be considered there is the Mavs are, I think, just maybe 1.5 games outside of 5th place there in the West. They've already matched last season's win total as well. So last year they won 38 games. They've already won 38 games this season with 16 games to go. So it's not like you can say, he's playing on a team that's going to end up 500 or 3 games under 500. They're going to end up a 50-win team. I would have thought. Well, actually, no, maybe not 50, maybe a little bit shy of 50 there. Maybe they win 10 of the last 16 and they win 48 games. That's still a really good season there. So, he's been, really impressive to watch there. And we know he's a big game player. I'd love to see him finally have a real deep run in the playoffs. We haven't quite seen that from him yet. We've seen him have some decent series and maybe his supporting cast has let him down. But look, they've bolstered that team. They made some trades at the trade deadline. Got a couple of Aussies on that team that are looking good as well. So, I think you're absolutely right. He should be in consideration probably a little bit more than people are giving him at the moment.
Yeah, well said, man. Just on that, Daniel Gafford, he missed a layup today. So
he did miss, did he? Wow.
34 in a row. So he was 2 off Will Chamberlain's record for most consecutive field goals.
Do we know how many of those shots were dunks out of those 30?
I've seen today he's got 129 dunks in a 60-odd game. So you're looking at 2 to 3 dunks a game.
He throws them down when he dunks too, doesn't he?
He threw one down today, man. Yeah.
Huge.
Dangerous, man.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
It reminds me a little bit of Eric Dampier. Do you know what I mean? Like the way he dunks, especially.
Yeah. Good shout out to Erica. Yeah. As Shaq once called him.
Yeah. All right. Look, while we're on the Mavs, bringing in that depth with Gafford and PJ Washington, it's not inconceivable they do have that, slightly deeper playoff run.
Yeah, you could see him maybe getting to some conference finals this year. It wouldn't shock me at all to see that happen.
All right, cool. Sean Bruce signs on for 2 more years with the Kings. What do you think about that?
That's just amazing, Woods. Look, I'm surprised you didn't lead the show with that amazing news there. So, look, I can't say I'm that impressed with that news, to be honest. Not a massive fan of the guy. I guess you need someone like that on your roster, a locker room sort of guy, someone that's going to give their all out on the court. So, I don't think we need to spend much more time, unless you've got 10 minutes you want to talk about that or something.
No, it's a Brian Gorgian decision. You think he's a Brian Gorgian guy? He'll fit into
it? Yeah, he probably is,
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's talk about, WNBL finals. You watch, so it's 1-1 now, Southside and Perth, right? Perth had it in the bag yesterday. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about what happened in that last 30 seconds?
Look, we wanted to talk a little bit about more the WNBL finals. Obviously, we had Cal on a couple of weeks ago, and then we've a bit late recording, so hence us not speaking about it a whole lot. But I really recommend people sort of, try and watch this game 3. It's been a really exciting final series so far. So, as you mentioned, best of 3. It's now tied 1-1. Game 3 is on Sunday, hopefully not, clashing with that NBL time like we've seen happen in the semi-finals, which is a pretty poor move. I don't believe it is. Really exciting game. So for those that don't know, Woods, Perth haven't won a grand final since 1992, so a massive drought there. The Lynx are really trying to get this win this season. And look, they pinch home court in game 1. They shot the lights out in game 1, the Lynx there. I think they hit 22 3-pointers in that game. Yeah. Amy Atwell hit 9 threes in that game in game 1. So in that game 2, the Flyers really concentrated on her. She only had 9 points, so let alone the 9 threes she got in game 1. Really exciting game, wasn't it? It's one of the more exciting games I've seen in any of the NBA, NBL, WNBL for quite a while there. So look, the Lynx looked beat, didn't they? They were down, I think, 15 from memory, and really fought their way back. Look, we know that someone like Anna Lee Mailer gets a lot of credit, but man, that was a last minute that she'll probably want to forget in a hurry. So she missed 2 free throws. She blew pretty much a wide open layup, and then she got a rebound off that missed layup and didn't try and run the clock down, threw up a shot and got basically blocked there. And it was a block shot that stayed in bounds there. The Flyers managed to run the ball down, and just a really impressive shot from from Mercedes Russell there. So a buzzer beater basically to give them a 97-95 victory. So, yeah, as I said, I really recommend people get on to watch that game. For me, it was as much as, I don't know if I am a Lynx fan, whether I have to be just on default being a Perth boy, but for me, watching the Southside Flyers there, had, two players that I've got to meet, let's face it, with my commentary duties over the last year. So, Lauren Jackson and, of course, Leilani Mitchell there. So, Leilani Mitchell, just a really lovely girl there. I had a real long chat with her when she was coaching, when she'd just been out of the game a little bit in that first season of NBL 1 East there. So it was good watching those two. The GOAT wasn't her normal self in that game too. She was amazing in game one. But, I think it might be one that's maybe let slip a little bit for Perth. I'm probably thinking that Southside will come out and win that game 3. But, yeah, really impressive game there. And, I think the product's looking very good here for women's basketball.
Yeah, well, 80 years of experience there between Leilani Mitchell and Lauren Jackson, right? So who knows how much longer either of them will play for. So you'd want to lean towards... You
imagine if they win, you wouldn't be surprised to see both of them sort of, retire and see what will happen there. But, yeah.
And it's out of character for Annalie Maley, right? To make those decisions down the stretch, right?
Yeah.
Lack of IQ, poor decision making, and they will really rue that because they really should have closed that game out yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they could have been celebrating. They were literally a free throw, a layup or something like that just away from wrapping it up there on their home court. So they'll be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that last play, right, when the layup was missed, the offensive rebound was gone. At 9 seconds left on the clock. Yep. Hold the ball. Get the last shot. If you miss it, you go to overtime. Instead, you put a shot up, you get blocked. Southside go down the other end and score. And that was a real broken up play down the other end as well.
Yeah, it was strange, wasn't it?
Almost like Mercedes just picked up the ball and just chucked it up and it went in. So
she's a good player, isn't she, Mercedes Russell? Absolutely. Yeah.
And to add to a few WNBA championships, if I'm not mistaken, she could add a WNBA. I think she's got 2 WNBA championships, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
impressive. Yeah.
All right, so quickly moving on. We're going to be in the US for March Madness, man. You're looking forward to it? I think it's going to be pretty exciting to, go to some sports bars, you and me, and catch some college games, right? Yeah.
You're right, seeing them at some of those nighttime games, which will be weird there. I saw there were a few of the various brackets being played in Vegas, but unfortunately I think they're there maybe a week or so before we get there. But yeah, you're right, they're always interesting. You can put on a game of, 2 teams you don't know much about and you can get into it and feel the excitement there. I know there's a lot of Aussies involved again. Yep. St Mary's will be up there. I've got that soft spot. Obviously there's a lot of Aussies do. And, I got to call their game and see guys like Alex Dukas and some of these guys like, Aiden Mahaney and some of these guys that have really, shown their form this year. So they're probably the team that I'm going for, I'd say St Mary's. But, I'm a Michigan guy as well, so I'll be cheering them on. But, yeah, you're right. Seeing someone over there, maybe having a cold beverage and watching a game or two will be good, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. So while we're on that topic, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about our trip to LA and Atlanta? What are some of the games we're going to be?
So look, I'll tell all 5 games there. So what I thought, people that listen to us and people that were know we're going over there, I'll give you the 5 games there just so you can sort of keep track. Maybe chuck on the game if you've got League Pass there. See if you can see us there. I'm sure we're wearing some random jerseys from time to time. But so yeah, as I mentioned, 5 games. So we're seeing 2 in LA. So I'll give you the times like the dates, Sydney time or Australia time basically. So our first game we're seeing is a Monday the 25th of March. So it'll be an early morning game over here. It's a midday game there. So the Clippers will be hosting Philly. So that's pretty cool. Harden against his old team. Hopefully Maxi's back and firing. I think he's back now. Unfortunately, we won't see Embiid, which is pretty disappointing. We'll see Buddy Hield, so my daughter's favourite player, so she's pretty pleased about that. I reckon we won't see Kawhi Woods. So we saw him have a bit of a sook yesterday when he got injured and walked out of the tunnel before the game finished, so wouldn't be surprised. And I'm really disappointed no Westbrook. I'm a big fan of Russ there, so that's a shame that he's out there. But look, nevertheless, there'll be some good players in that game, and I think that should be a pretty good one to watch. So that'll be my first ever NBA game, Woods. I know you've seen plenty, but yeah.
Of news today, I heard that Kawhi's was a game time decision today, so you might be wrong.
Interesting.
Right?
He might be back. Okay, that's good. Yeah. The second game we'll be seeing is actually the next day. So the Clippers again hosting the Indiana Pacers. So looking forward to that one as well. I can see that being a bit of a shootout there. We know Indiana like to really play that up-tempo game with guys like Tyrese Halliburton. So looking forward to that one there. But then the big ones, Woods. We go to Atlanta for 4 nights, and it just so happened, right, that the Hawks are playing on 3 of those 4 nights. I'm not quite sure how that got planned so well. I think it might have been some good planning by myself. But 3 pretty good games there. So the first game, the Hawks are taking on the Blazers. So that's going to be Thursday the 28th of March, Australia time. So look, pumped for that. First ever Hawks home game. Rocking the Dominique jerseys, the Dominique statue, just being in State Farm Arena there is going to be really exciting. So also get to see two Aussies playing for Portland, which is pretty cool. We know they certainly both will play. I mean, Thibault's playing really good at the moment and pretty much was the difference maker in that game against the Hawks that was on yesterday. And then we've got another game the next night, so Friday the 29th of March, Hawks against Celtics Wood. So that's a huge one there. I reckon there'll be a lot of Celtics fans in that crowd. We should also say that game against Portland, we've got Lee Ellis. Of course, everyone knows Lee coming with us, and also Sydney Sea Kings there. So got a bit of an extended gathering going to that game there. Hawks Celtics is the second game, and then basically on Sunday the 31st of March, Aussie time, we've got Hawks versus Bucks. So another really good game there. I think the Bucks have still got a bit to play for there, so hopefully Giannis and these guys. I heard my boy Chris Middleton's maybe close to coming back, so I'd love to see him in a couple of weeks. I hope Boston don't decide to rest anyone, and also Woods CeeLo Green performing at halftime of that game, right? So Forget You, that crazy song. He's got some bangers, CeeLo Green. So looking forward to see that as well, right? He does, yeah. So, pretty excited in case anyone didn't quite work it out from the tone of my voice right now. So, absolutely pumped. Yeah.
And we'll document a lot of our travels. And we've got two episodes, one which we'll record in LA and then one which we'll record in Atlanta and get out to the guys.
We should say, we're not sure exactly how we'll go with the editing-wise. It might not come across with all the stuff we do with the intros and graphics. We'll try and see how we go, but otherwise we'll just put out a bit of a raw sort of podcast there. And on location, and us in the same room, which we've never done for a podcast yet either. So that'll be exciting.
Man, that'll be great. Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to do classic packs, man, but I think we're running out of a bit of time today. So I think we'll just give it a miss and we're going to go shopping for some cards over there, and maybe we can open up a pack.
Let's do a classic pack on location. I like
on location. That'll be great.
So,
look, before we finish everything up and embark on our travels, Robbie, why don't you take the audience out with some of the different places where we can be found, followed, etc. Yeah,
absolutely. So, like you said, Woods, firstly, we won't be doing an episode next week. So that first one we'll be doing will be the week after that, like live on location from LA. So just obviously make sure you're subscribing and doing all those sort of things on YouTube or wherever you get your audios. You'll see that latest episode come up. Definitely follow our socials. I'm sure Woods will be all over that when we're away, and he's big on that. You'll get some nice photos up there. So on X, we can be found at Throwback Hoops. Instagram is throwback.hoops. Email address throwbackhoops@gmail.com. Of course, we've mentioned Patreon before. If you want to pledge us a couple of dollars a month to help with all the costs associated with maintaining this podcast, we'd really appreciate that. And can't wait to do this overseas. It's going to be really good there. So we should say as well, we've got apartments in LA and Atlanta, and then we're ending up in Vegas. So we're both staying in separate hotels there. You've gone the more fancy hotel there, but we're still pretty close. I think I can see your hotel if I look out the window from mine. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to sharing our experiences with everyone. Robbie, to all the fans out there that have been following us, we can't thank you enough for your support. And until we speak to you live and direct from Los Angeles, it's peace out from the Throwback Hoops crew.